that lets you fight a war without putting hundreds of thousands of people on the ground.
To date, Air Force F-15s have won more than 150 battlefields against enemy fighters more dangerous than a single loss. In the 21st century, and the Navy F-18 Hornet is widely recognized as the world's best carrier-based fighter bomber. But in the future, neither the F-15 nor the F-18 will be able to survive against deadly enemy anti-aircraft missiles.
Surface-to-air missiles, or SAMs, are going to represent the biggest threat. Those formidable systems developed in Russia or China will have been taken out of action very quickly in any future conflict.
The fighter of the future will need to be stealthy to slip past enemy radar. It must be able to take out anti-aircraft installations. And it must out-dogfight any enemy fighters that get in the way.
That lets you fight without putting hundreds of thousands of people on the ground.
That future fighter, Air Force already F-15s have won more than 150 the F-22 Raptors without a single loss. The air dominance fighter of the 21st century, widely recognized as the world's best carrier-based fighter bomber. But in the future, developed by Lockheed Martin, this advanced tactical fighter has been designed to be the first plane to cross enemy lines, clearing the way for all other forces.
Very quickly in any future conflict.
The F-22 is both an air-to-air fighter and an air-to-surface fighter, so it can drop precision weapons.
That means it'll be able to go in early into conflict, knock out all the air defenses that an enemy has, and also take out certain ground targets.
That future fighter is already here.
And open the door for all the U.S. forces, whether they're ground vehicles or other aircraft, to come in and continue the fight.
The development of the F-22 Raptor first began in 1985, when the Air Force requested proposals clearing the way for advanced tactical fighter jet to replace the F-15 air superiority fighter. Military planners feared that the F-15 would not be able to counter new air and ground threats on the horizon. The result was the creation of the F-22.
Knock out all the air defenses.
The capability of the aircraft is a quantum leap above what exists right now. And it's going to take air power and revolutionize it into
all the U.S.
a
forces,
whole new world.
Ground vehicles or other aircraft to come in and continue the fight.
In the battles of the future, stealth will be critical for all new fighters to avoid being seen by enemy radars.
Non-stealthy aircraft just will not survive in the air battles of tomorrow.
Military planners feared that the F-15 would not be able to counter. Stealth technology was created to counter advances in radar. The creation of the F-22. Radar works by sending out radio waves and measuring the amount reflected back to determine the distance, speed, and course of an object. But stealth in the battles of the future, stealth will be critical that deflect radio waves away, being seen, making them nearly invisible to radar.
Non-stealthy aircraft just will not survive in the air battles
The world's
of tomorrow.
first stealth production aircraft was the F-117 Nighthawk. Stealth technology was created to counter advances in radar.
The limitation of the computer technology at the time. It's easier to model a finite number of flat surfaces than it is a bunch of curved surfaces.
And while the aircraft was a breakthrough at the time, the fast flex limited the plane aerodynamically, making them nearly invisible to radar. But now, thanks to more powerful computers, engineers can design aircraft that do not have to sacrifice aerodynamics for stealth.
The F/A-22's aerodynamic slickness allows it to have the lowest drag of any aircraft ever produced.
The facets limited the plane aerodynamically. The F-22's aerodynamic superiority. But now, thanks to with its stealth and fire, engineers can design aircraft that do not have to sacrifice aerodynamics before for stealth.
The F/A-22's
The F-15, which the F-22 will replace, has been a very successful fighter, but it is not stealthy. The F-22's aerodynamic superiority. The F-117, while stealthy, carries no air-to-air weapons and is not designed for air combat. It relies on stealth and mission planning to protect itself. Has been a very successful fighter, but the F-22, on the other hand, is not only stealthy, but comes with a full complement of air-to-air and air-to-ground weapons. It relies on stealth
The primary
and mission planning to
armament
protect itself.
is in weapons bays underneath the airplane, where we carry 6 medium-range radar-guided missiles.
Comes with a full complement. By carrying the weapons internally, it preserves the stealthy shape of the plane.
Is in weapons bays underneath
For
the airplane,
closer
where we carry
infighting,
6
the
medium-range
F-22 has short-range missiles, and carrying the weapons internally
Behind these
preserves
two
the
doors
stealthy
right here
shape
is the
of the
side
plane.
weapons bay. This is where we carry
For closer
heat-seeking
infighting,
missile.
the F-22 has short-range missiles and guns.
Behind these two doors right here is the side weapons bay. This is where we carry heat-seeking missiles. For close-in armament, the Raptor is equipped with the M61A2 cannon. The muzzle is hidden right behind this door right here. It's hidden because of the stealth characteristics of the airplane. The muzzle is hidden right behind this door. Cannon carries 480 rounds and is capable of shooting 100 rounds a second. Cannon carries 480 rounds.
The F-22's advanced weapons systems will make it a formidable interceptor, as will its unique ability to find enemy aircraft without revealing its own position. When other planes use their radar, they become visible to every other radar system in the area. But that's not the case with the F-22.
Perhaps the highest tech part of the airplane is the radome itself. Not only does the radome have to be stealthy, but it has to be able to transmit and receive its own radar signals.
The F-22 radar achieves that. How the F-22 radar achieves that is known is that it is classified. But what is known is that the F-22 can see enemy aircraft at a distance
The first time that the bad
while
guys
remaining
know there's an F-22 in the area is when one of them blows up. The first time that the bad guys will really know there's an F-22 in the area is when one of them blows up.
Radar system, the F-22 is the first fighter to have super cruise. Along with its advanced radar system, the F-22 is the first fighter to have super cruise. A jet's afterburners ability to travel faster than the speed of sound with the engine using its extra thrust. A jet's afterburners boost speed by pouring fuel directly into the hot blast of the engine and adding fiery extra thrust. But the F-22 doesn't have afterburners are also wasteful, consuming enormous amounts of fuel, dramatically affecting the range and duration of a plane's mission. 1,000 miles. But the F-22 doesn't have that problem. Without using afterburners, it can supercruise at an incredible 1.5 times the speed of sound, over 1,000 miles per hour.
This is all about our
F-22 is
pilots
presently the
being
only
able
fighter
to
in the world
go
with supercruise,
fast,
but it wouldn't be possible
minimize
without a
the
very
amount of
unique
time
set
they
of
are
engines.
exposed to any threat,
Goals for Pratt & Whitney
do
were
the
to
mission
provide
that
a
we've sent them to do,
transformational engine that the
turn
Air Force
around and
needed,
come home
one that was
safely.
stealthy, maintainable, fast.
The F-22 is presently the only fighter in the world with supercruise, but it wouldn't be possible without a very unique set of engines. It sets the new standard for
The
jet
goals
engines.
for Pratt & Whitney were to provide
Along
a
with its incredible supersonic
transformational
ability,
engine that the Air
F-119
Force needed,
incorporates
one that
thrust
was
vector.
stealthy,
Here we are at the
maintainable,
rear end of an F-A-22
fast.
Raptor. First thing you'll notice are the nozzles for the F-119 engines. In
The
flight,
F-119
during a maneuvering dogfight, they actually
PW-100
move
was
up and
developed
down
by
and
Pratt
vector
&
thrust the
Whitney
engine to
after
provide
years of
maneuverability.
research. It sets the
Helps
new
us
standard
turn
for jet
inside
engines.
any foe,
Along with
maneuver
its
at
incredible
high
supersonic
speeds
ability,
to outmaneuver
the
another airplane
F-119
or
incorporates
potentially
thrust
an enemy weapon
vector.
that's headed towards us.
Here we are at the rear end of an F-A-22
F-22's
Raptor.
stealth,
First thing you'll notice are the
and
nozzles
vector
for the
thrusting are
F-119 engines.
impressive
In flight,
Its most
during a maneuvering
outstanding feature
dogfight,
may
they
be
actually
its
move
ability
up and
to
down
nearly
and vector
fly
the thrust of the
itself
engine to
through
provide
advanced
maneuverability.
computerized controls.
It
relieves the
helps
pilot
us
of all the duty.
turn inside any
Gives the pilot
foe,
total freedom to just look out and
maneuver
engage
at
in
low
the
or
combat
high
scenario.
speeds to
In
outmaneuver
addition to
another
monitoring its own
airplane
performance,
or
the
potentially
F-22
an
constantly
enemy
gathers
weapon
data
that's
on
headed
other
towards
aircraft
us.
in the combat area. It presents the most important the F-22's stealth, supercruise, and vector thrusting are impressive breakthroughs. Its most outstanding feature may be its ability to nearly fly itself through advanced computerized controls.
It relieves the pilot of all the duties, gives the pilot total freedom to just look out,
The
engaged
F-22
in the
offers
combat
total package
scenario.
of avionics, stealth. In addition to monitoring its own performance, the F-22 constantly gathers data on other aircraft in the combat area and presents the most important information to the pilot.
Just brings a great combination of we're going to have information passed to us from either unmanned vehicles or from off-board sensors
But there
so that
will
we
be
can
future
integrate data
competitors,
and use that
like the Russian
information for
Sukhoi
targeting.
37,
And
which
it's the
features
way that we
thrust
are
vectoring
driving
and a
our
radical
forces in
forward-swept
warfare.
wing
We're
design.
much more integrated with both other
And the
services
fifth generation
and
MiG,
other
the
platforms.
1.22,
The F-22 fits right
have
into that
nicknamed
concept.
the F-22. The F-22 Raptor's total package of avionics, stealth, supercruise, and thrust vectoring make it the most technologically advanced fighter today.
That's why we have to stay on top of the technology that
I've never been in an airplane that accelerates as fast, that's as agile,
When you look
the
at
ability
the
to turn very sharply,
adoption by China of the
and just brings a great combination of the
modernized,
speed, the
improved,
stealth, and the avionics to the fight that nobody else is going to be able to touch.
in the US. And that's one of the main
But there
reasons,
will
I think,
be
why the Air
future
Force is so
competitors,
insistent on the need
like the
to have
Russian
an F-22.
Sukhoi 37, which features thrust vectoring and a radical forward swept-wing design,
advanced interceptors for export that are superior
and the
to
fifth-generation MiG, the
such as
1.22, which some have nicknamed the F-22 scheme.
And Russians are
France's
still
new
very active
Rafale.
aircraft developers. They've got a
Germany,
variety
Italy, and the
of
UK have
technologies
joined
that they're
forces to
continuing to
create a
improve
Eurofighter,
on,
the
and that
Typhoon.
can be made available
these
to
planes
our
fall
future
into
enemies.
unfriendly
And
hands,
so that's why we have to
the
stay
US
on
Air
top
Force
of
will
the
need
technology
F-22
that we are
to
developing to
maintain
make sure that it is
advantage.
able to take out anything that other countries
We're
do.
always going to go
When you
into
look at
war
the
wanting to have that air
adoption by
dominance,
China of
and
the
F-22
SU-27,
is
the
going
fact
to
that it'll
the big
probably
boy on the
be
block
modernized and
that can help us
improved,
to do that.
that brings up the need
The
for
F-22
more
is to be
advanced
joined
fighter
by
aircraft
another
in the
stealthy
US.
aircraft, the F-35
And that's one of the
Joint
main
Strike
reasons, I
Fighter,
think,
the
why the Air
ground
Force
attack
is so
bomber of the
insistent
future.
on the need to have the
Designed for the
F-22.
U.S. Air Force, Navy, Marines, and British Royal Navy.
In addition to
The
Russia,
question is,
other U.S.
will it work
allies are
for
producing
every
advanced interceptors for export that are superior to the F-15, such as Sweden's JAS-39
Brute has given way to high tech, and conventional weapons of the past
and France's
no
new
longer be effective.
Rafale. Germany,
future battles,
Italy, and the
F-22
UK
will
have
be the
joined
first
forces
fight
to
across
create a
enemy lines,
Eurofighter,
surgically
the
removing
Typhoon.
air and ground targets.
If these planes fall into unfriendly hands,
The F-35
U.S. Air
Joint
Force
Strike
will
Fighter,
need the
attack bomber of the
F-22 to
future.
maintain
It will assume
advantage.
air-to-ground attack role for the U.S. military.
We're always going to go into war
The
wanting
F-35
to
can
have that
carry
air
heavy
dominance,
weapons externally for
and the
maximum effect.
F-22
But
is
when a
going
smaller
to be the
payload
big
is
boy
carried
on the
internally,
block
it is
that
nearly
can
as
help us to
stealthy
do
as the
that.
vaunted F-117.
In future combat, the F-22 is to be joined by another stealthy aircraft, the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, the ground attack bomber of the future. Designed for the U.S. Air Force, Navy, Marines, and Britain's Royal Navy.
Development of the
The
F-35
question
was
is,
driven by the armed
will it
forces' desire
work
to
to save
forever
costs
use
by
by
creating a ground attack bomber that could meet the needs of the Air Force, Navy, Marines, and Britain's Royal Navy? The rules of war have changed. Brute force has given way to high tech and conventional weapons of the past.
The
no longer
F-35 is
be
expected to
effective.
cost about $40 million, one-third of the
In
cost
future
of an
battles,
F-22
the F-22 will be
But
the
put
first
one
fighter to
basic
cross
airframe
enemy
in
lines,
design to satisfy
surgically
so many
removing
different
air and
military
ground
demands.
targets.
Each armed service wanted a stealthy ground attack bomber.
Next,
But the Marines
the
also needed a plane
F-35
with
Joint
short
Strike
takeoff
Fighter,
and vertical
the
landing
attack
capability.
bomber of the future.
The U.S.
It
Navy
will
required
assume
a craft
the
with larger
air-to-ground
wings,
attack role
heavy-duty
for the
landing
U.S.
gear,
military.
and resting hook for carrier landing. And the wings will have to
The
fold up to
F-35
save
can
deck
carry
space.
heavy weapons externally for maximum effect. But when a smaller payload is carried internally, it is nearly as stealthy as the vaunted F-117 Nighthawk.
F-18 has a significant amount of stealth capability to allow it to be used
Unlike
early
the
on in
twin-engine
a
F-22
campaign,
Raptor, the
and it has a
F-35 Joint
significant
Strike
amount
Fighter
of
was
weapons
designed
carrying
around a
payload
single
capability
engine to keep
to
down
be used
not
at the
only
later
costs,
stages of the
but
campaign.
weight.
The threat to
Lighter
the airplanes
plane
may
can
not
carry
be significant
more
and
weapons.
require that stealth.
For
The development of the F-35 was driven by the Armed Forces' desire to save costs by creating a ground attack bomber that would meet the needs of the Air Force, Navy, Marines, and Britain's Royal Navy.
Airplanes are becoming very expensive these days. You had to do something to keep the cost of these airplanes back down to a reasonable level.
The F-35 is expected to cost about $40 million, one-third the cost of an F-22 Raptor.
Tom Morganfield.
But could one basic airframe be designed to satisfy so many different military
A million
demands?
things are going through your mind.
Each
Your
armed
eyes are
service
everywhere, you're
wanted a
listening,
stealthy
you're
ground
watching.
attack bomber.
Your senses
But the
are tuned to
Marines
an
also
incredible
needed a
level.
plane with short takeoff
Sensing and
and
feeling
vertical
the airplane
landing
for the first
capability. The U.S. Navy required a craft with larger wings, heavy-duty landing gear, and an arresting hook for carrier landings. And the wings would have to fold up to save deck space.
The size and scope of the JSF
Next,
program
a
is
Navy
pretty
plane was built
significant.
with heavy-duty
The airplane
landing
is being
gear,
designed to
wider
replace
wings,
the
slow
F-16 and
speeds
the
needed to
A-10 for
land
the
on
Air
carriers.
Force.
Navy test
The
pilots
AVAV
flew
for
touch
the
and
Marine
goes,
Corps.
demonstrating the F-35's ability
And
to
the
land within
F-A-18
space of the
for
carrier's
the
flight.
Navy.
But
But the most difficult challenge, unlike the twin-engine F-22 Raptor, the F-35 Joint Strike needed was designed around a single engine to keep down not only cost, but weight.
The STOVL capability is
plane
extremely
can
important to the
carry
Marine
more
Corps because the airplane can go just about anywhere that the rest of the forces can go. It's not limited to needing a large runway. It doesn't need a really big ship to operate off of.
The ability
Engineers
to
at
handle
Lockheed
a large
Martin, the
amount
designers
of
of the
ordnance
F-35 Joint Strike
and
Fighter,
bring
took
it
a hard
to
look at
an
the
enemy site.
AV-8B
That
Harrier,
all works better
fighter
with
the new
a single engine.
The Harrier is a great airplane if you look at the fact that it's basically 1960s technology. It's achieving all those wondrous STOVL flight sort of maneuvers without the aid of a lot of computers.
Harrier's ability to take off, hover, and land vertically is achieved. The Air Force version of the Joint Strike Fighter, the F-35A, made its first flight attempt on October 24th, 2000. Tom Morgenfeld, who had been a test pilot for the F-22 Raptor,
so all of
at
the
the
lessons learned I
controls.
have from the Harrier airframe, operational
Well, a
experience,
million things are going through your mind. Your eyes are everywhere, you're listening, you're watching. Your senses are tuned to an incredible level because you're sensing and feeling the airplane for the very first time.
The vector thrust method by harnessing the jet engine to a drive shaft that would power a fan to blast air down.
It's definitely a pilot's
In
airplane.
1991, we unveiled this shaft system.
The Air Force testing went smoothly.
You gotta be kidding me. Are you guys
Next, a
serious?
Navy version was built with heavy-duty landing gear and wider wings for the slow speeds needed to land on carriers to draw in more air. Navy test pilots flew touch and go, demonstrating the F-35's ability to land within the space of a carrier's flight to create a balanced lift force. But the most difficult challenge still lay ahead for the F-35 program. The Marine Corps needed a version that could perform short takeoffs and vertical landings.
Mechanical energy
STOVL for short.
dealing with in the
The STOVL capability is extremely important to the Marine Corps because the airplane can go just about anywhere that the rest of the forces can go. It's not limited to needing a large runway. It doesn't need a really big ship to operate off of.
Engineers at Lockheed Martin, the designers of the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter, took a hard look at the AV-8B Harrier, the STOVL fighter that the new aircraft would have to improve upon.
Combine the jet exhaust.
The Harrier is
to
a
get
great
a lower
airplane if you look at
combined
the fact that
temperature
it's basically
than the Harrier.
1960s
This allowed
technology.
us to
It's
avoid
achieving
some
all
of the
those
problems
wondrous
with
STOVL
concrete
flight
where
sort
the
of
concrete would
maneuvers
actually
without the aid of a lot of
burst
computers.
and explode
Harrier's
under
ability
the
to
high
take off,
temperature and high jet
hover,
exhaust
and
pressure.
land vertically is achieved by vector thrust. The powerful force of its jet engine is directed downward through four nozzles that can pivot 90 degrees to the ultimate test in the air.
I was brought in because I am a
Lift
Harrier
fan
pilot with
failed
almost
during
1,600
hover.
hours in that
Plane would
airplane.
crash.
So all of the lessons learned I have from the Harrier airframe, operational experience I have, I was able to bring to the program and use those to help evaluate the F-35 STOVL version.
2001. And it
For
was
hovering,
complete success.
engineers gambled
And
on
at
a
that
radical
time,
new system.
I didn't hear any more from the people who've been saying for years
They
this thing will
planned
never
to
work.
supplement the vector
It
thrust
worked.
method by harnessing the jet engine to a drive shaft, the F-35, that would power a fan to blast air downward and further tested for
In
mass production.
1991, we unveiled this shaft-driven
and their
lift fan
allies are
system
expected to
the
order more than
technical world.
4,000 Joint Strike
Some
Fighters,
actually said,
which will
"You've got
replace
to be
most
kidding me.
American-built
Are you
fighter
guys
bombers in
serious?"
use today.
The handling quality and performance are
The
stunning.
lift fan
Really is a
required
pilot's
doors
airplane.
to open
Sort of makes you
behind
feel
the
like a little
pilot
boy you
on the
were
top
taking
and
home
bottom
and
of the
tucking
plane
him
to
at
draw
night.
in more
It's
air.
just a pilot's airplane.
The fan would blast air down midship, while the jet nozzle in back swiveled, blowing its powerful exhaust down to create a balanced lift. Use their superior weapons-carrying abilities to
The
attack
shaft-driven lift
other
fan
major
system
ground targets.
allows
The Joint
you
Strike Fighter
to
is gonna
harness
be
a
the
lot more
backbone
energy
airplane
out of
for
what the
hauling
engine is
freight.
producing.
But
It
harnessing
is
the
gonna
jet
be the
engine
muscle
to a
part
drive
of
shaft
sustained
proved to
forces.
be extremely difficult. Also
The mechanical energy we
in the
were
air.
dealing with in the
Situations
shaft-driven
change
lift
during the
fan
battle.
system
There are a variety of ways for the
was
F-35
very
to
large.
bring in
It
information
had
from external
28,000
platforms, other
horsepower
airplanes flying
being
on the
transmitted from the
satellite-based
drive
assets,
shaft
ground-based
from
assets.
the
All
main
that information
engine
can be
to the
presented
lift
to the
fan.
pilot in the cockpit.
And that's
And allow
similar
him to be
to
more of a
the
tactician
power
and
going
manage the
through a
tactics
U.S.
of the
naval
game that day,
destroyer.
instead of worrying about the nuances
The
of
lift
flying.
fan's ability to blend
The
large
pilot's job
amounts
will
of
be to
cool
supervise the
air
process
with the
of
hot
identifying
jet
the
exhaust
problem
provided
and
another
if consent
important
requires.
benefit.
One of the things we learned in JSF was to combine the jet exhaust to get a lower combined
The Joint Strike
temperature
Fighter will be able to carry
than the
a wide range
Harrier.
of weapons,
This allowed
to
us
include the
to
heavier
avoid
weapons, such
some
as
of the
2,000
problems
pound
with concrete where the
busters
concrete
and
would
2,000
actually
pound blast
burst
doors.
and explode under the high temperature and high jet exhaust from the
will be
Harrier.
guided to their targets with pinpoint precision by JDAM tail kits. At the Lockheed Martin test facility, Palmdale, California, the revolutionary lift fan system was put to the ultimate test in the air. If the lift fan failed
JDAM
during
is a
hover,
guidance kit
the
that
plane
came
would
after
crash.
Desert Storm. This little round piece on the side there is an inertial navigation clock. Now this clock, instead of measuring seconds,
It made its first flight
take the unit and you
in
tell it where it is
2001,
right now
and it was
electronically,
complete
and then
success.
you move it back
And
a
at
foot,
that time,
or you move it up
I didn't
a
hear
foot.
any more
It
from the people
measures
who'd been saying for
every
years,
centimeter
this
and
thing will
every
never
distance.
work.
The bomb knows the
It
coordinates of
worked.
where the airplane is, and it also knows the coordinates of
Now,
where the target
all
is.
three
And when
versions
the
of the
weapon is released from
F-35
the airplane,
for
it
the Air
simply
Force,
flies from one set
Navy,
of
and
coordinates to the other.
Marines are being developed and further tested for mass production. Because a JDAM is the United States, Britain, and their allies are expected to order more than 4,000 Joint Strike Fighters, which will replace most American-built fighter bombers in use
whether it
today.
is due to weather,
handling qualities
smoke,
and performance
haze,
are
or just some
stunning.
sort of other
It really
thing
is a
that's steering
pilot's
the target.
airplane. It sort of makes you feel like a little boy. You want to take it home and tuck it under the pillow with you at night. It's just a pilot's airplane.
In future air conflicts, the F-22s will be used to establish air dominance. Then waves of stealthy F-35 Joint Strike Fighters will use their superior weapons-carrying abilities to attack other major ground targets.
The Joint Strike Fighter is going to be the backbone airplane.
It also makes
for
the
hauling
F-35
freight.
an even more formidable
It is
weapon
going to
system.
be the muscle part
The new weapons such
of
as
sustained
JDAM really
forces.
reduce the need for the number of sorties.
Commanders can also alter an F-35's mission in the air as situations change during the battle.
There are a variety of ways for the F-35 to bring in information from external platforms, other airplanes flying on the battlefield, satellite-based assets, ground-based assets. All that information can be presented to the pilot in the cockpit and allow him to be more of a tactician and manage the tactics of the game that day instead of worrying about the nuances of flying the airplane.
The pilot's job will be to supervise the process of
Over the last
identifying
50
the
years,
target
helicopters have
and then
evolved
to
from
give consent for
slow-moving
weapons
multi-purpose support vehicles to fast-moving frontline attack ships. But in the high-tech wars of the future, speed alone is not enough. Information
The Joint
is
Strike
the key.
Fighter will be able to carry a wide range of weapons, to include the heavier weapons such as the 2,000-pound bunker busters and 2,000-pound blast weapons.
and the ability to provide
The
precision
Joint Strike Fighter's one-ton bunker busters and blast bombs will be guided to their targets with pinpoint precision by JDAM tail clears the way. Surveillance and attack helicopters. The Joint Direct Attack Munition, or JDAM, is a kit that can be put on any bomb to give it the brains to know where to go, and movable tail fins to guide it. But at such low altitudes, helicopters are
JDAM is a
vulnerable to
guidance
a wide
kit
assortment of
that
ground-to-air
came
weapons.
after Desert
All the
Storm.
simple systems, the
This
guns,
little round
unguided
piece on the
rockets,
side there
surface-to-air missiles,
is
it's
an
gotta deal with all
inertial
of that. It's gotta deal all of it
navigation clock.
The
Now, this
Pentagon
clock,
has responded
instead of
with a
measuring
two-pronged strategy
seconds,
to counter this
measures
threat.
feet. If
Inexpensive,
you
expendable
take the
unmanned
unit and you
helicopters
tell it where it
and
is
stealthy
right now
manned
electronically, and then you move it back a
Unmanned
foot,
helicopters will be
or you
primarily
move it
used for
up
surveillance
a
and for
foot,
gathering
it
targeting
measures
information.
every centimeter and every distance.
Fire Scout,
The
designed
bomb
by
knows the
Northrop
coordinates
Grumman,
of where
was
the airplane
specifically
is,
developed to
and it
take
also
off and
knows the
land
coordinates
on
of where the
Navy
target
ships.
is.
However,
And when the
the
weapon
key
is
to
released
creating a
from the
successful
airplane,
manned
it simply
helicopter
flies
in
from
future
one set of
combat
coordinates
is to
to
make
the
it
other
stealthy like the F-22. But the question
and
is,
does its
can
thing
it
when
be
it gets
done?
there.
Achieving stealth
Because a
helicopter
JDAM is
different from
directed
stealth
by
in different
GPS or
ways.
global
Concerned about
positioning satellites,
radar
it can hit
reflectivity,
targets regardless of
infrared,
visibility.
noise.
The way we
all
use it is
things
by
that will give
employing it
away an
against
aircraft
targets that we
Those
cannot
signatures,
normally
like
see
heat,
visually, whether it is due
sound,
to
put
weather,
helicopters and their
smoke,
pilots at serious
haze,
risk
or
over
just
the
some sort of other thing that's
All these
obscuring the
small
target.
shoulder-fired missiles, which are very effective against helicopters, are heat-seeking infrared systems.
The challenge for engineers was to create a quiet helicopter with very few signatures and a small radar cross-section. As a JDAM falls, its inertial clock keeps track of its position and signals the tail to make course corrections, directing it to the target.
Comanche, with all the stealth capabilities, we can defeat the radar threat. We can defeat the guy with the shoulder-launched
The
heat-seeking
accuracy
missile.
of new weapons
and
like
from the guy
JDAMs
popping
will
up in the
reduce
tree,
collateral
Our
damage.
agility defeats him. Our small size, our quiet.
It also makes the F-35 an even more formidable weapon system.
The new weapons such as JDAM really reduce the need for the number of sorties, and that reduces our risk because we're not exposed to enemy threats as
In the
often.
Comanche, the fan is shrouded, so there is no
The
interaction
F-35's
between
combination
fan
of
blade
advanced
tips and main
weapons,
rotor tips.
avionics, and
it's also
stealth
hand
will
display.
help it ensure
And
its
those all
success
contribute
over the
to reducing
battlefields of the
acoustic
future.
signature.
U.S. military planners wondered if these same features could be utilized in a helicopter.
If you look at a
They
Comanche,
wanted
it's got
a stealth
side plate
helicopter.
rotor. And
But
what that
could
does
it
is
be done?
It cuts down the normal chop, chop, chop sound from a helicopter into a more discreet whir that kind of blends into the background.
Over the last 50 years, helicopters have evolved, making slow-moving multi-purpose support vehicles to fast-moving frontline attack ships. But in the high-tech wars of the future, speed alone is not enough. Information is the key.
There's three elements that are critical to home in on, and that's the ability for you to know more than the enemy, by the ability to maneuver quickly around an enemy and gather more information about them, and the ability to provide precision firepower at
the Comanche utilized the stealth secrets first developed for the F-117 in future conflicts. After the F-22 Raptors and the F-35 Joint Strike Fighters have cleared the way, surveillance and attack helicopters will support ground troops as they move in to secure the area.
Actually make the helicopter better. We like to be down low where the action is, and we like to be down low where the threat can't see us. So once you've bought in,
but at such low altitudes, helicopters are vulnerable to a wide assortment of ground-to-air weapons. To give commanders an overview of the battlefield by providing up-to-the-minute information.
Surface-to-air missiles, it's got to deal with all of that. It's got to deal all in and out, slash and cut.
The Pentagon has responded with a two-pronged strategy to counter this threat. Inexpensive, expendable unmanned helicopters and stealthy manned helicopters.
He's going to kind of direct like a quarterback.
Unmanned helicopters will be primarily used for surveillance and for gathering targeting information. Fire Scout, designed by Northrop Grumman, was specifically developed to take off and land on Navy ships. However, the key to creating a successful manned helicopter for future combat is to make it stealthy like the F-22. But the question is, can it be done?
Achieving stealth on a helicopter is different from stealth on a fixed-wing aircraft. You're concerned about different signatures, radar reflectivity, infrared, noise, all things that will give away an aircraft.
Those signatures, like heat, smoke, and sound, put helicopters and their pilots at serious risk over the battlefield.
Or unguided rockets.
All the small shoulder-fired missiles, which are very effective against helicopters,
in addition, Comanche's pilots can ask allied aircraft to fire missiles. The challenge for engineers was to create a quiet helicopter with very few signatures and a small radar cross-section. If the Comanche is hit, its computer system and that's exactly what Sikorsky has done with the new RAH-66 Comanche.
This is where the computer brain of the Comanche is. In the Comanche, one on either side of the aircraft, so there's two redundant we can defeat the radar threat. We can defeat the guy with the shoulder-launched heat-seeking missile. And from the guy popping up in the tree, our agility defeats him. Our small size, our quiet
in support of its reconnaissance defeats him.
Often the first thing you hear from a helicopter is the sound of the wake from the main rotor hitting the wake from the tail rotor.
So it has its own little eyes over the hill, so it can see what's going on without putting itself
in the Comanche, the fan tail is shrouded. So there is no interaction between the fan blade tips and the main rotor tips. And it's also a candid place. And those all contribute to reducing the acoustic signature.
It's about 31 inches long.
Engineers also experimented with the main rotor to find a quiet
has a laser
design.
radar. In other words,
if you look at a Comanche, it's got a 5-blade rotor.
Generates pictures.
And what that does is it cuts down the normal chop sound from a helicopter into a more discreet word that kind of blends into the background.
Each of which is thinking, but each of which is communicating with each other.
Reducing the heat signature of a helicopter is also essential, making it more survivable.
When you look at a Comanche, the first thing you ask yourself is, where's the exhaust? Where does all this hot air get out of the engine?
So that information the Comanche's exhaust actually escapes through the tail boom, where it is instantly dispersed by cool air from the rotor. With surveillance
that missile has to have something to home in on, and that's
change missions to take advantage of
Comanche defeats that by the engine exhaust being mixed with ambient air and cooling it, so that there's no longer a heat plume for that missile to home in on.
Unmanned air vehicles. To defeat radar, the Comanche utilized the stealth secrets first developed for the F-117 Nighthawk. There are no radar-reflecting right angles on its outer fuselage, and all weapons are carried internally to help keep its stealthy shape.
What's interesting about the helicopter is some of the things that achieve stealth actually make the helicopter better. Things like the retractable landing gear and the retractable weapons that also makes it sleeker and faster. So once you've bought into the stealth part of it, you get other superior attributes.
The main role of the Comanche is to give commanders an overview of the battlefield by providing up-to-the-minute information.
Comanche is going to be basically a flying cavalryman. It's going to dart in and out, slash and cut via reconnaissance vehicle.
As Comanche's two pilots gather data, their computer shares that data with other Allied forces.
When the Comanche finds the enemy, he's going to kind of direct like a quarterback to apply the firepower to defeat that enemy.
Dangerous combat missions. Today, unmanned air vehicles, or UAVs, are already taking over the role of long-duration surveillance.
UAVs don't have UAV combat.
Engineering advances have also made the Comanche one of the easiest and most forgiving helicopters to fly.
One thing the Comanche brings that other previous generation helicopters can't bring to the table is the pilot can maneuver the Comanche in virtually any axis
And it was there that a Predator made an amazing transformation from surveillance to armed. Although it will be used primarily for reconnaissance, the Comanche will also be armed for self-defense.
The Comanche is capable of carrying a wide array of weapons, all the way from guided missiles using a laser guidance system, heat-seeking missiles, which would be more of an air-to-air weapon, or unguided rockets, and also the latest Hellfire is pretty much a fire and forget.
Satellite. I mean, you can bring it
In addition, Comanche's pilots can ask Allied aircraft to fire missiles their way, and can then take over and guide those missiles to their targets.
Once targets have been located, identified, and cataloged, these could be disseminated.
If the Comanche is hit, its computer system can often fix itself by reassigning vital functions to undamaged computer cards of conducting surveillance.
This is where the computer brain of the Comanche is. There's one on either side of the aircraft, so there's two redundant brains. One of them is shot out or fails, the other one can operate
the thickest clouds,
100%.
sandstorms, or oil field smoke. When the radar is reflected back, it can also be used to create a 3D image of objects. In support of its reconnaissance mission, Comanche can control as many as 5 unmanned aircraft.
A lot harder than one. When the Comanche may be employed, it may have little vehicles that it launches out, so it has its own little eyes over the hill, so it can see what's going on without putting itself at risk.
Predator, it was designed to take off and fly its pre-programmed mission. In addition to launching its own unmanned air thanks to the GPS, Comanches may be aided on the battlefield by swarms of LOCAS, small intelligent missiles with their own computer brain.
More sensors, a lot more communication devices.
It's about 31 inches long, weighs a little over 100 pounds, carries a single warhead, has a laser radar. In other words, it has a scanning laser beam that generates pictures. Global Hawk give us an up-close view, which is something you can't get from a national asset, which would be a satellite type of thing.
Though still in development, the Global Hawk had a dramatic impact during Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Each of which is thinking, but each of which is communicating with each other. Send that imagery back to the operators who could either use these as surveillance probes or, in fact, as weapons themselves.
Weapons like LOCAS reflect the trends toward electronically linking all Allied forces and weapons, like the Air Force, information can be shared and used by all. However, designing one to take off and land on an aircraft carrier by networking aircraft over the battlefield with surveillance platforms and other weapons systems, commanders can quickly change missions to take advantage of up-to-the-minute information.
The key to the air battle of the future is not necessarily stealth, speed, or firepower. It's going to be information.
Tailless vehicle like Pegasus certainly was the toughest problem we had.
Unmanned air vehicles, or UAVs, will provide a large part of that information while flying long-duration surveillance missions. So, will the Air Force of the future have no pilot surface as well?
The first flight of Pegasus, the demonstration.
Since the very first use of airplanes in war, military planners have looked for ways to make aircraft more effective without any human assistance and with more lead space between the resting cables of an aircraft carrier. The engineers so seeking, their very existence was denied by the government. Unmanned air combat vehicles, or UCAVs, are now poised to take the preeminent role in 21st century air combat. Stealthy UAVs to get targeting information from its guns, missiles, and fighter aircraft.
UAVs are certainly going to change air power in the 21st century.
To the
You can
Navy's
see it
strike
starting to
packages.
happen today, but what we're looking at now is just the beginning. because there's going to be more of them.
But many future
they're going to be
UAVs,
better.
such as Boeing's X-45
Unmanned aerial
bomber,
vehicles
will be
allow the
heavily
military to do more with less.
Although
Put
flying
more
pre-programmed missions,
aircraft
armed
into the air
UAVs will
than you
still
otherwise would be
need
able to
human
because
permission
of
to
the
fly.
number of pilots that you might have, or where it might be too risky.
Friendly forces are on the ground, where civilians might be, where collateral damage, i.e. hitting a church or
In the future,
might be an issue.
aircraft
So there
that
is
have
a
no
element that
pilots
we
on
always
board
retain
will
for
carry
human
out the
and
most
physical
dangerous
purposes.
have a
combat
weapon
missions.
that's doing its own
Today,
surveillance
unmanned
and
air
has its own
vehicles,
ability
or
to
UAVs,
engage
are
and that
already
gives you a
taking
level
over
of
the role
dominance
of
that,
long-duration
we're just working
surveillance.
on right
UAVs don't have nonsense. You lose a UAV in combat
In the
and
not-so-distant
nobody bats an
future,
eyelid.
there will be even more radical aircraft and airborne weapon systems. One of the earliest surveillance
electromagnetic
UAVs
pulse
was the
weapons.
Predator. It was developed in the early 1990s. Airborne lasers.
When you look at Predator,
To
basically
hypersonic
they start
aircraft
off
that can
being
fly to
long
anywhere in the
endurance
world in
systems
2
that really
hours or
persist
less.
over the
But how
battlefield.
soon will these high-tech secrets In Afghanistan, become Predators provided critical real-time intelligence. And it was there that a Predator made an amazing transformation from surveillance to armed aerial attack.
Hard hellfire missile.
For 10 years before its
An
existence was
Al-Qaeda
revealed to the
convoy
public.
destroyed one of the vehicles in there. And at that point, it crossed the line from an unmanned aerial vehicle into an
Some of the
unmanned
unclassified
combat aerial
projects that
vehicle.
are acknowledged by the Pentagon seem more like science fiction. Today, the new Predator B can carry up to 10 Hellfire missiles. The military is designing a weapon system. Its primary mission is still what the military refers to as ISR, scattering or information, surveillance, and reconnaissance.
It's basically a poor man's satellite.
Electromagnetic pulse, or EMP
and let
weapons,
it
will
dwell
blast a
in an
highly
area.
concentrated magnetic UAVs transmit important visual information to battlefield commanders via satellite or other data links.
Once targets had been located, identified,
you can essentially
cataloged,
completely
these
destroy
could be disseminated
an enemy's
to
electronic
other
infrastructure
weapons or
in a very
weapon
precise
systems.
way. You can fly over a small facility on a couple acre, fire it.
Reconnaissance UAVs have multiple ways of conducting surveillance. On clear days, they use specially stabilized optical lenses that can zoom to high magnification. At night, they use infrared, and under adverse conditions, they use synthetic aperture radar to pierce the thickest clouds,
and will primarily
sandstorm,
be used for
or oil field smoke. When the radar is reflected back, it can also be used to create a 3D image of objects.
If the enemy chooses to use countermeasures or decoys or deception techniques, having to beat three systems is a lot harder than one.
They can defeat it quickly.
The success of the Predator paved the way for the development of an even more the battlefield of the future will continue to be a dangerous place. Northrop Grumman planners believe that the key to maintaining the security of the United States called the Global Hawk. The weapon systems, unlike the Predator, it was designed to take off, fly its pre-programmed mission, and land all on its own, thanks to the GPS, or Global Positioning Satellite System.
The Global Hawk is basically a much larger version of the Predator. It has higher altitude capabilities, increased payload, it can carry a lot more sensors, a lot more communication devices, and it can loiter over a battlefield for up to 35 hours.
The Global Hawk can stay aloft for a day or more, providing constant near real-time video surveillance over an area the size of Illinois.
Predator and Global Hawk give us an up-close view, which is something you can't get from a national asset, which would be a satellite type of thing.
Though still in development, the Global Hawk had a dramatic impact during Operation Iraqi Freedom. A single prototype provided information to Allied forces on 55% of all time-sensitive targets, including mobile Scud missile launchers. Like the Air Force, the Navy wanted its own autonomous UAVs. However, designing one to take off and land on an aircraft carrier was a tremendous challenge. But the engineers at Northrop Grumman were up for it. In the summer of 2000, they began working on the X-47 Pegasus.
The hardest part of the Pegasus program was definitely the flight controls. Getting on and off an aircraft carrier, of course, is one of the toughest design problems for an aircraft. And doing this with a tailless vehicle like Pegasus certainly was the toughest problem we had.
That problem was solved by using 6 innovative surfaces to make the plane climb, descend, and turn.
This surface just rotates up.
the Elevon, of course, both up and down, and then there's another inlay on the lower surface as well.
The first flight of Pegasus, the demonstration was very, very successful. It lasted approximately 12 minutes. There was no human in the loop.
But could Pegasus, without any human assistance, land within the tiny space between the arresting cables of an aircraft carrier? The engineers came up with an ingenious way to find out.
And we actually glued a small paintball down onto the bottom of the hook so we could get a clear touchdown point. That was quite an achievement that we're very proud of.
The Navy will use its stealthy UAVs to get targeting information for its guns, missiles, and fighter aircraft.
The initial focus has been on information, surveillance, and reconnaissance to provide targeting information to the Navy's strike packages.
But many future UAVs, such as Boeing's X-45 unmanned bomber, will be heavily armed. Although flying pre-programmed missions, armed UAVs will still need human permission to fire.
It has to know where friendly forces are on the ground, where civilians might be, where collateral damage, i.e. hitting a church or a mosque, might be an issue. So there is an element that we always retain where the human in the loop is important.
You can have a weapon that's doing its own surveillance and has its own ability to engage a target. And that gives you a level of dominance that we're just emerging on right now.
In the not-so-distant future, there will be even more radical aircraft and airborne weapons systems. Everything from electromagnetic pulse weapons to powerful airborne lasers to hypersonic aircraft that can fly to anywhere in the world in 2 hours or less. But how soon will these high-tech secrets become a reality? The enigmatic F-117 stealth jet flew in secret for 10 years before its existence was revealed to the public. Some of the unclassified projects that are acknowledged by the Pentagon seem more like science fiction than reality. The military is designing a weapon system designed to neutralize an enemy encampment or factory without destroying it and scattering nuclear, biological, or chemical materials. Electromagnetic pulse, or EMP weapons, will blast a highly concentrated magnetic field towards its target, overloading and destroying any electrical components.
The small electromagnetic pulse weapons offer some pretty startling capabilities. You can essentially completely destroy an enemy's electronic infrastructure in a very precise way. You can fly over a small facility, only a couple of acres, fire it, and suddenly none of their computers work, none of their weapons work, none of their electronics at all will work.
Researchers are also experimenting with an airborne chemical laser.
An entire aircraft has been turned into a chemical energy plant that points that laser at a target and burns through missiles.
This aircraft will fly at higher altitudes and will primarily be used for Scuds or for ballistic targets that would be fired from one country to another.
American generals don't want a fair fight. They want their equipment to be the absolute best in the world so that whatever they come up against, they can defeat it quickly and efficiently.
The battlefield of the future will continue to be a dangerous place. But military planners believe that the key to maintaining the security of the United States is to develop the weapon systems of tomorrow, today.